What's up, everyone? Welcome to Stick the Disc Off. Today, we're going to be running through the short to long layout at Reighard Park, a 9-hole disc golf course in Wauseon, Ohio. The course is about 40 minutes west of downtown Toledo, 35 minutes south of Adrian, and about 35 minutes east of Bryan, Ohio. It sits right next to a community pool and loops back to the parking lot on the west end of the park after 9 holes. Now, walking up to hole 1 here, you can see the big course layout sign. It's right kind of in the middle of where you're walking, so it's really hard to miss. You've got some kind of a little lost and found box up there, but really can't use it for much other than keys. So hole 1 here, 209 feet. The sign says about 180, but you'll notice one thing with this course is that the U-disc numbers and the signs are very off. So for me, this is a little chip hyzer. There's a big gap of trees. You see the kind of the V tree right there, and to the right of it, there's another tree. You got about 50 feet to kind of throw it in between. So it's usually a hyzer. Lefties, maybe there's a kind of a left gap. You'll see when we get to the long tee pads later. So walking over the bridge here to hole 1's green, you can see a hole 4's basket. And I was left with a little putt here for birdie. Really, when you come out here, this is a must get. And yeah. So moving on to hole 2 here. The sign says 255. I believe it's listed on UDisc as 239. Yep. And this kind of goes right along the creek, and the creek is kind of hidden in this woods. So you have a lot more room outright. Can't really see it. I kind of just threw it into the ground a little bit. Usually a little putter, straight up the gap. As I'm kind of showing the left side of these trees here. The creek really doesn't come into play until up by the green, where you can very easily slide off. You got about 35 feet of room before you really mess with that. So here we go. I've got a putt. That little tree in the middle, kind of straight away from the basket when you're on the tee pad. That marks about circle's edge, a little outside. I think I was about 35 here. And I cash it. So we're 2 under through 2. These first 4 are, well, really the first 5 are holes you want to get. We have a league out here every Wednesday night at 6, and usually around 6, 7 under wins it. You don't really see much better than that. I mean, it's an easy course, but the back 9 can be a little tricky, and bogeys are in play, which you will see later. Hole 3 here, 248 feet on U-disc. I believe it's a little further on the sign. I just go a little straight putter up the middle. You'll see kind of to the right of that little skinny tree on the left, there's kind of a couple gaps down there to take. The hyzer is a real popular route, but I am kind of a putter player. I love throwing straight putters. This one plays longer than it's listed. I'd say play about a 270 shot, 280. So yeah, I threw it a little over the basket, but about 15 feet here for the cleanup. Bang, 3 down through 3, perfect start. Now there is a road on the left on this hole, but I have seen people go with forehand left side and kind of skip it off the road. I used to do that, in fact. So anyway, hole 4, 255 on the sign. I believe it's 228 listed on UDisc. We'll see in a second. And yeah, I'm just pointing. It's right down the gap there. The bridge we saw earlier on hole 1, that's where this basket is. Kind of just got to throw it through the trees. There's a bigger gap left for a forehand route, but I'm not confident with my forehand, so I go backhand, try to just turn one over. There was a headwind. Usually the wind will be kind of blowing either in from the west or, south to north. And today it was kind of swirly a little bit. We had a lot more wind than usual. We had a big storm this evening, but I played this in the morning, so it wasn't as bad. Anyway, we're left about 60 feet. Take a little jumper, end up a little short, but it's whatever. Now, I would end up leaving that mini. I would tap in for par. I'd end up leaving that mini. I think I forgot my mini about 4 or 5 times today, so I kept having to go back and retrieve it. So one thing about this course, as we get to the 5th hole, par 4, really about 360. You kind of just got to throw a big hyzer around the trees here. See that big tree on the left? You got a creek on the right, a pretty tough hole, but I say I get this one about 30% of the time. Usually you can get it for 2. It's a must birdie though. I mean, the birdie isn't hard. You just got to chip one out. You can get snagged by those limbs, but as long as you got about 200 feet, you're totally fine. So I have a little jumper here. I hit side of the cage for 2, probably about 50 feet. It's pretty upset with that one, but moving on. So still a birdie. So 4 down through 5. Oh well, I guess I gotta make this first. But anyway, one thing you'll notice about this course as I run through it, as we get to hole 6, the tee pads are natural, and at that they are very loose sediment, and they're really starting to beat in. So you'll see me do it a couple times, and I'll point it out when I do it, but I do find myself getting kind of my foot caught on those little wooden planks that they have. So hole 6, this one's pretty tricky. There's a lot of trees. There is a straight gap. You can see straight ahead of you way down there, but I like going a high hyzer, spike hyzer, usually with an FD. I slipped right there, you could see it. I don't know if you'll be able to hear me, but usually when I do that I go ow, just because I hate the shot. And later on I did kind of hurt myself, but I was fine. So I actually ended up going long left. The slip didn't help that, but we have about circle's edge just off the top. It'll roll a little bit. I took another one, I missed it, but the first one's the only one that matters, so tapping for a par. Really not a bad par there. Hole 7 is a par 4, longest hole in the course from the shorts and the longs. Really one you want to get. Nothing too tricky. So I've been going roller on this hole. Definitely not the play when we had so much wind. I thought the wind was going to affect it more, so I kind of powered down and threw a Hades. Flipped over and didn't fully get to the ground. Thankfully I hit a tree and actually ended up in the perfect spot. So you want to play this hole, you want to end up on the right side of the fairway where you'd have kind of an open look like this. If you're 50 feet left of where I am, there's a lot of trees, you'll get caught up. This shot I kind of juiced. Thought it was going to skip in, and it ended up skipping about 30, 35 past. So I'm up against the tree. Green's not really tricky. It's up on a little bit of a slope, but typically I'd almost never see people go long here. And I was surprised I did go long because I just threw a get freaky zone right into the hill. And yeah, hit off the top. So that's 2 in a row. Got a redemption putt though. So we're still 4 down through 7. Hole 8, you go right down to the left of where that basket just was. You've got kind of a tricky shot. So you can go straight up the gap. You see that little mound? That's where we're going. You can go straight up the gap. That's I've seen people park it more often than the shot I'm about to do, which I've never seen anyone but me do. It's a big, it's like spike Annie. I go with a sole, and I just try to plant it about 30 feet from the basket, kind of just left, just right, or just short of that hill, because there's just that big tree you need to get past. It's about 250 out there. So yeah, I've got about 35 here, but it's on the hill, so I give it kind of a little soft jumper. Didn't really play it as good as I wanted to, but got about 20 feet. My putt's been feeling pretty good, so I'll just quickly tap that in. But you can see that mound. The camera doesn't really do it justice, but that mound you get a lot of rollaways. Hole 9 here, 215. I think it's listed a little further than you just, yeah. So that right gap between that big tree on the right and the big tree in the middle of your screen, that's where I go. This tee pad's a little tricky because you're kind of going a little downhill, and obviously all the natural tee pads out here are not ideal. But yep, just a little chip hyzer. You got about a 25-foot gap to hit. You hit it, you're usually pretty much parked. I was a little long right. Didn't throw it on enough spike, but still a good shot. You just got some trees to beat up by the green, but that tree to your right, if you hit that and even go to the right of it, you're never outside the circle. There's a tree just short of where the camera is. Once again, your circle's edge. It's pretty hard to mess that up. Yep, thumbs up. Go 5 down through 9, and yeah. So that'll be it for the front 9, these short tee pads here at Reighard Park in Wauseon, Ohio. The next video will go over the back 9, which will be the long T-pads here. And the longs, you will see I definitely struggle. Usually don't struggle as much as I do, but it's a good way to kind of show what can happen if you have an off day, and it shows its teeth a little bit. So hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope you all, if you're in the area, can go check it out sometime, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.